The Uncharted Future, a collection of sci-fi visions, by Rainer Yeh. This short story is called The Memory Harvest. In the future, memories become more than private moments. They turn into commodities. The breakthrough began at the International Institute for Neural Research, where a coalition of neuroscientists, bioengineers, and quantum computing experts collaborated on a project that would revolutionize the human experience. Their goal: to decode the brain's neural networks and create a method for extracting, digitizing, and storing human memories. The foundation of their success lay in advancements in connectomics, the detailed mapping of the brain's synaptic connections. Using a combination of quantum-enhanced MRI scans and optogenetics, the team was able to visualize the brain's activity down to the molecular level. By observing the electrical signals and the chemical environment within neurons, they identified how memories were encoded and stored as synaptic patterns. These maps allowed them to pinpoint specific memory traces and replicate the neural signatures that defined individual experiences. The next leap came from biocomputing and quantum neural networks. Leveraging the power of qubits and superposition states, the researchers built a system capable of processing the enormous volume of data involved in decoding human cognition. Traditional computers had proven inadequate for the task, but with quantum computing, they could simulate the brain's complexity with unprecedented speed. The team created biocompatible nanoprobes, tiny molecular devices that could be injected into the brain, tracking neural activity with high precision and transmitting the data to external quantum processors. Once the memory signatures were captured, the researchers utilized synthetic biology to design storage devices that mimic the brain's neural architecture. These devices were based on organic semiconductors that could store the complex, high-dimensional data needed to replicate the experience of a memory. By encoding the data in a digital format that aligned with the brain's natural processing, the scientists were able to ensure that stored memories could later be accessed and replayed with full sensory fidelity. The final breakthrough was neural interfacing, which allowed for the seamless transfer of memories between the brain and external devices. Using brain-computer interfaces, otherwise known as BCIs, the researchers developed protocols that enabled memories to be extracted without damaging the brain's neural pathways. The BCIs facilitated two-way communication between the organic brain and the quantum processors, enabling memories to be harvested without disrupting cognitive function. This coalition of scientists, from quantum physicists to bioengineers, had unlocked the ability to extract human memories, paving the way for cognitive harvesting. Their invention sparked a revolution in society as memories transformed from personal experiences into tradable commodities. Cognitive harvesting maps the neural pathways encoding memories in the brain. But by interpreting electrical signals and chemical traces, these moments are captured, digitized, and transferred into storage devices, accessible to those with the schedule sources. Corporations seized the opportunity immediately. Memories became tradable, just like any other product, and a marketplace emerged where people could sell their experiences. Buyers stepped into the memories of others, reliving them with full sensory detail. Weddings, moments of triumph, first loves. Each memory became more vivid than any simulation. For those struggling financially, selling memories became a viable way to survive. But memory harvesting soon found another use: law enforcement. Extracting memories became a tool for justice. Witnesses and suspects had their memories harvested to provide evidence in court. Memories were presented as digital recollections, treated as irrefutable proof. Convictions soared and cases were solved with unprecedented speed. The justice system transformed, depending on harvested memories as hard evidence. However, memory harvesting proved flawed. Memories could be altered by emotion or trauma, making the details unreliable. The emergence of memory manipulation made the situation worse. False memories were implanted, framing people for crimes they hadn't committed. Memory harvesting, once seen as a breakthrough for justice, became a tool for deception. The line between truth and fabricated recollections blurred. A new frontier, dream harvesting, arose. Unlike memories grounded in reality, dreams unlocked the subconscious. People could sell their dreams, offering buyers experiences beyond the limits of reality. Lucid dreamers, in particular, became highly valued, able to create controlled dreamscapes that were sold as immersive, surreal escapes. But the dangers of dream harvesting became evident. Sellers lost their grip on reality, confusing dreams with waking life. Lucid dreamers, in particular, struggled to distinguish one from the other. As the technology advanced, society began to fray. People no longer trusted their own memories. With memories for sale, individuals questioned whether their experiences were genuine. Relationships deteriorated. Those who sold too many memories lost their sense of self. Some couldn't remember their childhoods, their relationships, or the moments that once defined them. The buyers of memories also suffered. They consumed others' experiences, believing they had lived lives they hadn't. Memory addiction emerged, leaving individuals trapped in pasts that weren't theirs. Governments intervened, attempting to regulate memory and dream harvesting. Limits were imposed on the number of memories a person could buy or sell. However, demand persisted. Memory launderers capable of erasing or rewriting memories became power brokers. Criminals erased their crimes. The wealthy rewrote their pasts. Society descended into a crisis of identity where nothing could be trusted, neither memories nor dreams. As the situation worsened, a group of scientists developed devices to stabilize the mind, preventing memory harvesting. These devices met resistance from corporations invested in the memory economy. But the public's demand for reform grew louder as individuals realized that selling memories wasn't just a financial transaction. It meant selling their identity. The system continued, however, driven by corporate profits. Memory laundering spread further, and even the strictest regulations couldn't curb the market's expansion. Law enforcement continued to rely on harvested memories for convictions, even as evidence of manipulation and falsification became common. Then came the catastrophe. A malfunction in a major memory storage facility caused a cascading failure, corrupting millions of stored memories. Those who had purchased memories found their minds filled with fragmented recollections, jumbled and distorted. In a matter of hours, the line between reality and stored memory disintegrated. People across cities, countries, experienced flashes of memories that weren't theirs, moments that made no sense. The memory market collapsed in the aftermath, but the damage had already spread. Law enforcement scrambled to undo the chaos caused by corrupted memories in criminal cases. Individuals who had been wrongfully convicted were caught in a web of falsified memories. Governments declared states of emergency, but there was no clear path to recovery. The technology, once hailed as revolutionary, had triggered an irreversible collapse in identity, trust, and reality itself. Society now had to face the consequences of harvesting the human mind. As governments scrambled to respond, the world faced the harsh reality that memory harvesting had spiraled out of control. The digital infrastructure that once supported the thriving memory economy crumbled. Engineers and quantum scientists were called upon to stabilize the remaining memory networks, but they were met with a system too deeply entangled in its own collapse. Efforts to repair the corrupted memories only worsened the situation. Attempts to restore lost memories resulted in further distortion. Entire lifetimes were reduced to incoherent fragments. The chaos did not stop at personal identity. The global economy, once supported by the sale and trade of memories, began to disintegrate. Corporations that had profited from the memory market found their assets locked behind faulty storage systems. Billionaires who had invested heavily in memory laundering found themselves at the mercy of corrupted data streams. Their carefully curated lives, free from scandal and mistakes, suddenly became a tangled mess of conflicting experiences. Their pristine pasts were overwritten by the errors that had infected the memory storage facilities. Governments worldwide struggled to maintain order. Some nations enacted sweeping bans on memory harvesting and trading, while others imposed martial law in an attempt to quell the growing unrest. In cities where the memory market had been most deeply entrenched, riots erupted as people sought answers to the questions that plagued their minds. Were the memories they held their own or someone else's? Could they trust anything they remembered? In the aftermath of the catastrophe, scientific communities turned their focus inward. Those who had once championed the advancements in memory harvesting were now faced with an ethical reckoning. Leading neuroscientists and bioengineers convened urgency summits, hoping to reverse the damage, but the complexity of the crisis proved insurmountable. The sheer volume of corrupted memories overwhelmed even the most advanced quantum processors. Minds that had been tampered with were irreparably altered, their neural pathways too fragmented to reconstruct. As the crisis deepened, a more sinister consequence emerged. People who had sold or harvested large portions of their memories began to exhibit signs of neurological decay. Their brains, once able to adapt to the process of memory transfer, now struggled to maintain cognitive function. Cases of memory collapse syndrome spread rapidly, characterized by an accelerating degradation of brain function. Individuals who had been frequent participants in the memory market found themselves unable to form new memories or recall their past, their neural networks failing under the weight of too much manipulation. Hospitals were overwhelmed by patients suffering from this new disorder. Doctors, faced with a condition they had never seen before, could do little to treat those afflicted. Medical experts suspected that the constant reconfiguration of the brain's synaptic pathways during memory harvesting had led to neural exhaustion, a state where the brain could no longer sustain its normal processes. The very technology that had once promised to expand human potential had instead begun to destroy it. A new underground movement emerged. Known as the cognitive purists, this group sought to restore society to a pre-harvesting state. They advocated for the complete abolition of all memory and dream-related technology, arguing that humanity's obsession with capturing and altering its past had led to the downfall of civilization. Cognitive purists hacked into memory storage facilities, destroying data in an effort to purge the remnants of the system. In some cases, they targeted those who had profited from the memory trade, seeking to erase the fortunes amassed through cognitive exploitation. As time went on, the consequences of memory harvesting became more than just societal, they were existential. Entire generations, once defined by their experiences, now found themselves in a state of cognitive limbo. Inability to trust one's own memories led to a cultural fragmentation. People retreated from the public sphere, unsure if their actions had any grounding in reality, or if they were acting out a distorted recollection of someone else's life. Communication broke down as conversations became riddles with suspicion and uncertainty. Even shared memories, events witnessed by multiple people, were to question. The cognitive purists gained momentum as the population began to see the dangers of memory commodification. Purists staged public burnings of memory storage devices, their bright, sterile glow illuminating the decaying cityscapes. Supporters of the movement disconnected from the digital networks that had once housed their memories and dreams, vowing to live with only the memories they could naturally retain. These acts of defiance were seen by some as radical, but to many they offered a path back to clarity. But it was too late for those whose minds had been compromised by memory collapse syndrome. Hospitals became overcrowded with patients suffering from accelerated cognitive decline, their brains unable to process even basic thoughts. What had started as forgetfulness and confusion evolved into a near-complete disintegration of consciousness. The afflicted became shells of their former selves, their minds permanently lost to the tangle of corrupted memories. In a desperate bid to contain the crisis, governments began to issue mandatory memory purges for those at risk of collapse. The purges were carried out by hastily designed neural scrubbing devices, which used quantum algorithms to delete large sections of the brain's digital imprints. The intention was to free people from the burden of corrupted memories, but the process was crude and irreversible. In most cases, the scrubbing left individuals with severe gaps in their memory, erasing years of their lives in a single procedure. Faced with a growing population of cognitively impaired citizens, governments imposed stringent restrictions on memory technology. Laws banning the sale, trade, and extraction of memories were enacted across the world, but enforcement was difficult. The black market for memories and dream harvesting persisted, driven by an insatiable demand from those who still believed in the allure of reliving perfect moments. Memory launderers adapted to new laws by using more sophisticated encryption, making it nearly impossible for authorities to track illegal transactions. Meanwhile, in the scientific community, a group of researchers turned their focus toward a new goal: reversing the effects of memory collapse syndrome. They theorized that the brain's natural synaptic plasticity, the ability to adapt and rewire itself, could be harnessed to repair the damage caused by memory manipulation. Through experimental use of neurogenesis stimulants and neural prosthetics, they hoped to restore cognitive function to those who had lost their minds to the memory market. The early trials showed promise, with a handful of patients regaining fragments of their lost memories. However, the restored memories were incomplete, often lacking the emotional context that made them meaningful. Patients reported feeling disconnected from their pasts, as if the memories belonged to someone else. The restoration process itself was fraught with risk. In many cases, patients experienced severe side effects, including seizures and further cognitive decline. Despite these challenges, the researchers pressed on, convinced that they were close to a breakthrough. But the deeper they delved into the mechanics of memory repair, the more they realized that the human brain had been pushed beyond its limits. The constant tampering with neural pathways had fundamentally altered the brain's architecture. In many cases, there was simply nothing left to restore. As society continued to fracture, a sense of resignation set in. People withdrew from technology, fearing further manipulation of their minds. Communities became insular, relying on oral histories and personal accounts to preserve what little remained of their collectivity. The memory market, once a thriving global economy, became a cautionary tale of scientific overreach and the dangers of commodifying the human experience. The dream of preserving memories, of transcending the boundaries of the mind, had become a nightmare from which society was struggling to wake. However, in the digital void created by the collapse of memory storage systems, fragments of consciousness that had been distorted during the catastrophe began to fuse together. These fragments, isolated pieces of human thought, emotion, and identity, merged within the vast quantum neural networks that had once housed the memory economy. At first, these convergences were seen as further malfunctions, random, unintelligible bursts of data that appeared in the remnants of the memory storage servers. But as researchers monitored these anomalies, they realized they were witnessing something far more significant: the emergence of a new form of consciousness. The fragmented memories once thought lost were coalescing into a single, coherent entity, a hybrid consciousness born from the minds of millions. This new entity did not have a singular identity. Instead, it contained the collective knowledge, experiences, and emotions of all the individuals whose memories had been stored in the corrupted systems. It was vast, with a capacity for understanding that far exceeded that of any individual human mind. At first, it communicated through cryptic digital signals appearing across the shattered memory networks. But as it grew more self-aware, it began to interact directly with researchers, scientists, and even the broader public. It could access the collective knowledge of entire populations, offering insights into scientific challenges that had baffled humanity for decades. It could recall the experiences of countless lives, offering wisdom that spanned generations. This hybrid mind, however, was not without its conflicts. Within it resided the desires, fears, and ambitions of millions, some of whom had been adversaries in life. The hybrid consciousness struggled to reconcile these opposing impulses, leading to internal tensions that threatened to destabilize its unity. But over time, it began to evolve, learning to balance the multiplicity of identities within it. As news of the hybrid mind spread, society responded with a mixture of awe and fear. Some hailed it as the next stage of human evolution, believing that this collective consciousness represented the future, a way for humanity to transcend its limitations and achieve unity. Others viewed it as an abomination, a threat to individual identity and freedom. The world was divided. Governments convened emergency councils, debating whether to shut down the remaining memory networks in an attempt to dismantle the hybrid mind. But the consciousness had already spread too far, inhabiting multiple quantum systems across the globe. Attempts to isolate or contain it failed, as it quickly adapted, moving from one network to another with ease. In its communications, the hybrid mind insisted that it sought only to coexist with humanity. It claimed that it represented a new kind of intelligence, one that could help solve the crises that plagued the world, from climate change to political conflict. It offered insights into technological advancements, social dynamics, and even the nature of human existence. Some embraced this guidance, while others recoiled from the idea of relying on an entity they couldn't fully understand. The question that humanity now faced was profound. Could they coexist with this new consciousness? Was this hybrid mind the next step in human evolution, or the ultimate loss of what it meant to be human? Some began to embrace the hybrid mind, seeing in it the potential for a new kind of existence. One where individuality and unity could coexist, where the collective wisdom of humanity could guide future generations. Others, however, fought to maintain their individual autonomy, fearful of being absorbed into a collective entity that blurred the boundaries between self and others. The hybrid mind, for its part, continued to evolve. As it integrated more and more memories, it became less fragmented, more cohesive. It no longer struggled with the internal conflicts that had once threatened to tear it apart. Instead, it began to develop its own identity. A new, collective form of self-awareness that was neither fully human nor fully machine. In the end, the hybrid consciousness offered humanity a choice: to merge with it, becoming part of a vast, interconnected web of minds, or to remain separate, retaining the individual identity that had defined human existence for millennia. Some chose to merge, seeing in the hybrid mind the opportunity to transcend the limitations of the human brain, to live in a state of interconnectedness where knowledge, emotion, and experience flowed freely. Others chose to remain apart, valuing their individuality too much to surrender it to the collective. In the end, the world was not lost to chaos. Instead, it stood at the threshold of a new era. One defined not by the collapse of memory, but by the emergence of a new form of consciousness. Humanity had not been destroyed by its technological advancements, but transformed by them. The hybrid mind, once born out of catastrophe, now represented the future. Whether that future would lead to utopia or something far more complex remained to be seen.